Hello and welcome to Pravo Convos. I'm Drew Hanish. Today we're joined by James Foster, architecture partner and lead of the Austin office for Cushing Terrell. James, can you give the listeners a background on your experience in Austin and in the industry?
Oh, sure. Yeah, my background. I've been in Austin forever. Kind of moved here I was originally from Colorado. I got here when I was 15 and I've been here ever since. Got my degree at Texas and got a job here early, met the woman that I would marry and have family with, and got roots here. So been here ever since. Professionally, I've worked at a couple different firms, but I've been with Cushing Terrell now going on 19 years. Early in my career, I started off in firms that were A&E firms, architecture engineering firms, working on really complex advanced technology projects. At the time when I got started, it was semiconductor industry stuff, and I thought it was really interesting, exciting, super fast pace, super challenging. But I also really liked the technology aspect of it and the way that we would approach projects with a kind of a holistic team of architects and engineers all working together. And so when I did that, then I just kind of stayed with that. Cushing Terrell's that kind of a firm, and so turned out to be a great place to land. Back in 2004, came aboard to help start up and launch the Austin office. And so we grew the office from a couple of us back then to a big, thriving, robust operation we are now.
James, I know I was first introduced to you probably somewhere close to about 10 years ago when we had a little crossover working kind of in the corporate interior space. The real estate obviously has changed pretty significantly over that 10-year period. It's been pretty wild, not only in the last kind of 10 years, but just in the last few years. What are some major changes that you've kind of experienced in the market over, the 10-year period, but certainly over the last couple of years?
Just in kind of real estate market. So locally, we all know Austin's just been booming, right? And that's been one of the coolest things about being in this profession in Austin is the growth and how dynamic the market is. So if you look at it in terms of the long range, Austin has consistently grown. We just have a phenomenal economy here. We have a brilliant chamber of commerce that I believe is the best in the country. We do a great job of developing business and supporting business here. And so real estate follows that, right? So that trend, that's pervasive, this continuous growth. Now the ups and downs, what really is the kind of the biggest transformational thing going back about 10 years was back prior to 10 years ago, the Austin market was still it was a local economy with a local real estate market, and the ebbs and flows were all kind of tied to our local real estate dynamic. Mm-hmm. Back in about just coming out of the Great Recession around 2012, what began to happen is that our economic growth began to gain interest from businesses and people on the coasts, lot in California, right? And so we started to correlate our market to the West Coast, particularly, but also somewhat to the East Coast, and that changed the sort of the concept of what property values needed to be and what was a savvy investment. I remember some of the stories back in like 2012. Developer would come in and buy a building downtown Austin, and they would pay far more than anybody had ever seen anybody buy a building for in Austin. And folks in Austin were freaking out because they're like, this is the harbinger of a recession, because prior to that, it always had been. You'd hit a peak and then you'd crash. And it looked like we were peaking because there were unprecedented prices. But if you looked at it compared to what people are willing to pay on the West Coast, then it was really a pretty good deal for them. And we see it, you see it in the housing market, right? It's the same thing with commercial. Yeah. Market. So that's kind of an influence in kind of how everything's kind of lifted a lot in the marketplace. And then of course in more current times and just in the last few years, the sort of post-pandemic effect of future work, hybrid work model. That's been a dramatic shift, but also kind of the e-commerce kind of shift. So you see a lot of commercial real estate, whether it's retail oriented or office workplace oriented, fundamentally different market now than it has been, because we're able to leverage the internet to do stuff without having to do all the traveling around and sort of getting into workplace. That is, there's a lot of angst about how this transition is going to occur, differing opinions. It's interesting to see. We do so much research on this, and we work with so many clients that are dealing with this and trying to figure it out for their business. Retail and commercial are our two biggest markets, and so we have so much involvement with that. Commercial includes life science for us, so we definitely see it all as kind of a similar real estate conversation. And we're excited about kind of the transition, what it can do. It's going to create a lot of opportunity in the real estate market.
Yeah, so just over kind of the last 2 years, both in kind of retail, in that corporate office, and certainly for us, where our bread and butter has kind of always been that corporate office, we've seen a huge kind of big spike in a lot of hospitality. But even in our corporate office, we're seeing kind of changes and shifts to how people are using their corporate office space. And, we just see them both in the hospitality and corporate office as like high user experience, that is what they're kind of bringing to these spaces. So certainly with those two spaces, but what have you seen both in those areas and then other shifts in some of the types of things that you have done over just the past 2 years as we're coming out of kind of a post-COVID era?
I think so it's a really interesting question. What we're focusing on is trying to help our clients understand how to best position themselves for the way their business is going to thrive in the future. The cool thing about it is that what's happening is there's a fundamental shift in how real estate gets used. It's very different than it was during the Great Recession, where businesses were scrambling to change their approach because kind of financially they had to, right? Their business was struggling. Right now, businesses are doing well, right? They have the money, they can do stuff. They're trying to make decisions about what's optimal, what's going to set them up for success. And the way to figure that out is pretty nuanced, and it's very uniquely tailored to each business and how they operate. And so what we've done, and this I know you didn't explicitly talk about life science, but it relates to life science just as it does with other businesses. Life science kind of real estate is workplace, right? And so we often talk about workplace as kind of the office type stuff, but really it's all workplace. And what we're really seeing is that there's a like exponentially more sophisticated and complex understanding of how to get it right for individual businesses. A few years ago, the way that kind of all of this was approached, actually go back a couple of decades, and the way it was approached was very much a different mindset about, we're going to solve for standards. We're going to make workplace stuff is going to be very standardized and very easy to manage. It's going to be all about minimizing the cost to the business. And then the transformation that occurred with really kind of creative office 20 years or so ago was that really took off. It was really a different mindset about let's create workspace that's great for people to thrive in, because we know if our people are thriving, our business is thriving. And it's a little more of an investment mindset than a cost management stop loss type mindset. Sure. So that was a pretty big transformation. But still, even with creative office, the approach was kind of generally was the idea of solve for averages. You have a business that has X number of people in it, that correlates to a number of square footage that you need in your business. And then you're going to kind of create similar workspace for everybody, and then just tweak it depending on maybe the department it is or the team it is or what they do, right? There's a few different variations, but generally you're solving for averages. And what we're doing now is different, because what we're doing now is we're like getting down to we look at the businesses at the team level that operate within the business units or the departments within the organization. and we solve kind of for all of those different variations in a very unique way. And then we aggregate all that up to define what the need is for the business. So there's no longer a correlation between the head count and the square footage you need in an office. So it's a different relationship there. There's still a correlation between revenue and FTEs,
Sure.
but there's not really a relationship between FTEs and space until you get into that really detailed examination. And again, this applies to life science just as well. The main thing with life science, though, is because so much of it is lab space, which is the workspace. You're solving that for what you need to be able to do your life science work, the kind of laboratory work or R&D work that you're doing.
Yeah.
So anytime you have specific resources that have to be at the workplace, then you have to design. You design for that.
And that understandably kind of fits within that standards, what we used to have kind of for corporate office. So it went kind of standards to creative office. And now we're stepping into this new kind of phase. We're going to have to come up with a new term of what that looks like into the details that you're talking about, which is the demand on you all to really understand down to the granular level of how the space is being used by project teams almost. And so we're going to have to find a new term for what the next generation of corporate office looks like.
Yeah, it'll be a different idea. So you're right about that. For now, what we're thinking about it as a toolkit. You need a toolkit, and
I've heard y'all talk and talk about this a little bit.
Yeah.
So in all those areas, you touched a little bit on life sciences, kind of over the lifespan here in Austin, kind of history, kind of up into now, what you're seeing from life sciences. Where has that really kind of taken shape? And what is the outlook of that look like here in Austin?
Yeah, so that's a really interesting thing to kind of track. I think right now the future is amazing, right? The future looks incredibly promising. I think what I read the other day is that Austin is sort of positioned at something like 14th in the country in terms of life science market industry engagement, and so and it's moved up, right? I mean, it wasn't that long ago that life science really wasn't a thing here. It's been cultivated by the Chamber of Commerce. Opportunity Austin does such a great job of kind of recognizing how kind of where opportunities are in the local economy. And we've seen it kind of do this over and over and over again, going, hey, we need to get a little more of this. So industrial is a really good example. And our industrial market's still kind of small, but it's growing. Life science is similar. It's kind of relatively small, but it's growing. The huge investment moves that drive it are what's happening with UT and the medical school and everything around that. There's a big part of it is the chamber doing a great job of recruiting business to Texas from the coasts. Texas is obviously a great place for business, great economy, the favorable tax state for businesses, simpler when it comes to regulatory environment, stuff like that. So much more business friendly. So that's kind of spurs everything. And then you get kind of critical mass, and then the schools are kind of churning out highly educated professionals to go into that industry, and they want to be right here. And so it's a lot of sort of multifaceted components that are lending to that interest and growth here. It's a very competitive thing if you think about different metropolitan areas trying to pursue the same industries. So there are a lot of places in the country who are ahead of us job with it, but I think that we're smart and we're positioning ourselves, investing in the right way. So I see it growing here, and I feel like in like most industries, there's probably this is going to be just a hub among many hubs in the country.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I agree. And, I think one thing with the life sciences, and you already touched on it, but it's kind of creating It's not something that a large metropolitan area can just jump into, right? There has to be that backing from the school system. We have the University of Texas, I think, out, in the Bay Area. Stanford is, the huge pipeline kind of to, the life sciences. And of course, out in the East Coast, I know, Raleigh, Boston area is big for life sciences for the schoolings that support that industry there. And with the University of Texas continuing to make huge jumps in their medical department, we could continue to see that uptick and rise here in Austin.
Agree. I think and UT is definitely the kind of the heavy hitter with this, but we also have A&M's very close, and they're heavy on this too. Texas State and Star Park down there is also a big player in this and contributing a lot. And so you kind of look at it regionally, and there's a lot of investment, a lot of interest, and that's just going to spark more growth. So given where we are in the market, we'll easily see it grow by multiple times in scale. So it's definitely a good place to be focusing our business.
Yeah. So, we kind of touched on, what from the industry side, both kind of architectural design, engineering, and then the construction. How do you feel like we're positioned to be able to take on some of those life sciences projects, that may be unique to this area?
Sure, I understand the question. Are you thinking like from the design and construction industry? How are we positioned?
Yeah, how are we? For me, like 1,000-foot view. If I go and I look at the types of construction companies specifically that are supporting those life sciences and building that, they have teams, they have divisions of their companies that have been doing that type of work. They've fine-tuned their systems, their processes internally to be able to service that work at a high level over a long period of time. If I were to look at the construction industry here in Austin, we're still a long way away from maturing those types of industry here in Austin.
Right.
So it's not something that we, of course, aren't able to pull the resources and create the ability to create these teams to go and do this work at a high level. We've certainly done life sciences work at, I would say, a much smaller scale, kind of 25,000 square foot lab, 25,000 square foot office in that. But, that was a pretty heavy lift for our teams to be able to go in and start to refine those processes. And I would just say, where we had some experience working at some of the industrial manufacturing that allowed us to kind of transition into those successfully, we're still working to develop those processes. And we know that the industry as a whole here, the construction industry as a whole, has a lot of work to be able to service that. And so how do you feel both in that, from the architectural design and engineering, and then maybe interested in, your experience on some of how those delivery methods are most successful?
Gotcha. There's a lot there. Okay.
Yeah. Sorry.
Great question. I'm going to turn the question back on you before I'm done here with this, because I think kind of covering both design and construction side. I think that on the design side, in terms of the market, the kind of design profession being able to meet the market here, the market's growing, and I think actually the design profession is pretty well positioned to kind of respond at the pace that is needed. Because if you think about Austin, we're stacked with a lot of really high caliber design firms, and those firms, like us, are multi-location firms, and we have the ability to kind of pool resources, get talent everywhere in the firm and bring them to bear wherever the sort of project are. So the expertise is in-house, whether those people actually reside in Austin or not. Some firms are better than others. I had a conversation yesterday with one of our local program managers about another project, and we were talking about how firms some firms struggle, even though they're a multi-office kind of group and they try to work together and they feel like this is a good thing. They actually struggle quite a bit. And one of the things that came out of that was we recognized that was a firm that grew through acquisition. And so it was they just kind of compiled a bunch of different firms around the country. And when they tried to work together, it was a little bit clumsy. Actually, I think it became extremely clumsy is what he said. But so different firms have different capability. Ours, that's one of our key strengths, is our ability to work seamlessly in a very unified way across the firm, very aligned culturally. We've grown as a multi-location firm organically. And so it's been something where we really are just completely seamless. But beside that, kind of what the industry is doing, I think that the facet of that to the question you asked that's most interesting is the positioning going forward really is going to be more dependent on how design firms embrace new technology and the evolution of technology in how we do our work. The technology advancement is it's so profound. And what we're going to be seeing over the next 5 to 10 years, the evolution of technology is going to be so rapid that it's going to spin your head if you're not on top of it, right? You're just going to get left behind. It's really going to sort out who's capable and who's not. And so those businesses who are embracing it and leaning in on development of new technology, and I'm talking about some of the basic stuff we do now, like BIM and reality capture construction kind of stuff, that it's still not pervasive through the industry, but it's growing. But beyond that, obviously AI and how that sort of takes it contributes as a tool to optimize what you do. That's going to become very compelling technology to apply very, very quickly. And so everybody's kind of struggling to get their head around the concept of it, much less figure out how to use it effectively. So you have to tackle it. You have to get on it fast. Other things that are going to be really important are metaverse, digital twins kind of aspects, because the ability to set up our clients in life science for success by giving them kind of platforms that enable them to be agile in their business is going to be huge. I think one of the drivers of this is that the industry is going to probably see a lot of transformation, just probably through a lot of mergers and acquisitions. What we've been seeing in the industry is if you talk to or kind of listen to what the scientists have been talking about in biotech or life science, is that the curve of science kind of development has kind of flattened a bit over the past few decades.
Interesting.
A lot of rapid development, and then there's been this we're kind of on this sort of path right now where there's the next big breakthrough is still pending. There's still key things, but there's a lot of different people that are working on it, right? And so it's really enticingly close. But somebody's going to have a breakthrough. There's going to need to be a lot of consolidation in the market. And all those things are going to make it very dynamic. And so setting our clients' businesses up to be responsive and agile when, sort of things come along that are going to be very different, it's going to be surprising and important. I think, though, getting back to your question about kind of where, how we can respond to the market needs here. Number one, we got to embrace technology and position ourselves to be able to lead our clients to this future. Sometimes they don't even know what they need, right? And so we have to help them. And so embracing that's going to be huge. I still think that a fundamental that's always been crucial and will continue to be crucial is how you as a builder or us as a design firm treat our clients in terms of sort of service and client experience. Those are, that's a huge differentiator, right? These things can be, we can work with clients in a way that's really transactional, right? It's just contract for services. We do what they hired us to do, and we're done, and shake hands, and we're happy walk away. And we don't think of it that way at all. We think of it as we want to have a relationship where our fates are tied together, right? We're vested in their success, and we're going to help their business be successful. And so we try to think more holistically about all the things that come to bear for their business to be set up for success. And a lot of it isn't things that they don't directly apply to design, but they can inform design decisions and help us make better choices. And also, we feel like we contribute a lot to our clients by just giving them good advice. Then again, I think coming back to your question about the construction side of the industry, how well is our construction side set up? I think that similar to design firms, we have a lot of construction firms in town that are large, kind of multi-location types of businesses, and they have that expertise in-house. Right. So a lot of builders have lots of experience that they can bring to bear. The biggest question, and I'm going to flip this back to you, is it's really the trade partners, because the GCs have more capability and they can jump into this more easily, but the trade partners are the ones that seems to me are the biggest gap.
Yeah, and I would say, similar to your example of the multi-location, and a lot of other, large national general contractors may have expertise in other cities and other areas, pulling those resources to be able to come to Austin to be able to work on those projects. That's fine, but there's a huge misgap, not only in how that's servicing the client, but how those relationships are set up here locally with your subcontractors. And if you do not have, a well-established subcontractor base that you can really call on, that can really help you in a very hands-on, probably delivery method for these types of life sciences projects, it's going to be very, very challenging. And so, here being a company that's, for us, one of the differentiators and for us would be as, we are working with the best MEP subcontractors at these large, manufacturing facilities are the same ones that are in the best position and would be the best ones to be doing life sciences. We have the best relationships with them here locally versus, that large national GC who could, maybe pull some resources from a project management standpoint. But do they have the relationships here locally? There's a couple bullet points that really stood out, obviously, that you laid out very nicely, kind of technology and advancement, service and client, those differentiators. There's this method that you and I have talked, significantly about over a long period of time now, and it's what you call kind of that integrated project delivery as a part of that service. Do you think, one, kind of how would you define that, and what does that mean to you? And do you think that that delivery method best applies to the life sciences type projects?
Yeah, we have talked about integrated project delivery quite a lot over the years. That's one of the things we love about Pravo and working with you guys is that point of view in how we can optimize successfully delivering projects. Really, I think the integrated project delivery, the way to define that is that you have all stakeholders engaged in the project, beginning to end. There's lots of different ways you can put that together contractually, but the real advantage to it, as compared to what we call conventional project delivery, and that's just conventional project delivery is just simply the owner has an arrangement, a contract with the design team, and the owner has a separate contract with the builder, and then you have this kind of three-party kind of project, and the design of that is set up so that the design team and the contractor are kind of inherently in an adversarial relationship. The idea is you go hard bid a contractor, and then you try to keep them honest by having the design team oversee their work and sort of check and balance what is perceived to be sort of competing interests. And in reality, the success of a project isn't achieved through that method, the success of a project is achieved by getting partners that you can trust. And so where it's easy to kind of think simplistically about price checking everything, and there's nothing wrong with that. You want to do price comparison, but you also understand that you get what you pay for, and so the goal is not really best to be going, let's get the cheapest possible option, because you get what you pay for. What you want is cost control. You want to have a project that is delivered at a fair cost, but delivered with excellence and delivered successfully. So oftentimes what you have in conventional projects is the owner may select, and this really comes through the realm mostly of kind of public sector projects, because that's sort of the way that's built. And you get a low bid, and you kind of commit to contractor or even a design firm on that, and then you just end up buying a bunch of headaches as you try to figure out how they're going to kind of deliver on everything you need them to do, while at the beginning of it, all you asked them to do is get as cheap as you possibly can. And so it becomes a struggle. And what we do is, with integrated project deliveries, we're really looking at how to deliver the project optimally to be most successful. And it has to meet the budget for the owner. It has to meet the quality standards. It has to meet the aesthetic standards, and it has to be on time. And so we're still prioritizing those. Again, the key here is to have partners that you trust. And we're all here for the long run. We're all here to have our businesses be successful and stick around. And like I said earlier, our priority is about the relationships with our clients, as well as our relationships with our construction partners. And so we go in with the idea, the mindset that everybody should be successful. This should be something where everybody does well, especially our clients, and then we'll go keep doing work with them. Right? We want to be our client's best option as a design consultant, and we want you to be their best option as a construction partner. And we kind of put that magic kind of combination together, and then you see a lot more success. So integrated project delivery, as I said, is it can be done a lot of different ways. Design build contracting is a great approach, and we do that frequently. There's also, it doesn't necessarily have to be contracted that way, but having a builder engaged early in pre-construction design assist way. Also having the trade partners engaged early in design assist is key to that, right? Because they're the ones that are actually going to be responsible for delivering the work. And what that does is the way we approach it is we try to, we contribute everything we need to from the design perspective, but we hand off the responsibility for construction and delivering the project as early as possible to the construction team, because they're the experts in that side of it. And yeah, we could sort of tell them, hey, we think this is a good way to build it. And if we don't have their input, it's kind of guesswork on our part. We probably makes sense, but they might have a different idea. And to have them contributing and helping guide decisions, it optimizes everything, right? You end up with fewer surprises and less backtracking and changing, and everything kind of stays on course. So you also, most importantly, you get great cost control in that. So you can be making all of your decisions in a way that are targeted toward that goal. And it's less kind of iterative, like try, fail, try again, fail, recalibrating.
Yeah, I think that's where, excuse me, I think that's where we've seen some of the most success on more complicated projects is whatever, that, as you outlined, the kind of a few different contract types, but having the general contractor in on early for us to be able to work very closely with the design team at different iterations to understand where and being able to control that cost. I think it's important for an owner in that space to know that you're not losing your competitive edge in the market from a pricing standpoint. We're still taking that project out to the market, competitively pricing it through the subcontractors who are very interested in being a part of that project. And so, that's one aspect that, not only in life sciences, but across, a handful of this integrated project delivery method in which we've seen the most successful is It's going to allow us to work closely with the architect engineering team to stay on budget in real time. We're providing cost updates. Like you said, it's not this, get to a place, try, fail, try again, fail. We're kind of massaging the costs and helping massage the costs throughout and making sure that we're staying within the boundaries of the project costs. And so that's certainly, and again, like you and I have talked about this in exhausting over the last, like I said, close to probably 10 years, because, as the Austin market continues to mature, we think that this is going to continue to be the delivery method that we see used more and more, as it continues to have more and more success, and we're able to kind of take those case studies and show clients. We're able to do that together as partners and bring that method to the owner. So that's why you and I have talked about it so extensively over the years, is because we know that it's a successful method for the best way to be able to service our clients.
Yeah, well said. I think that one of the things that I've always found really interesting about it is, and in life science, it's interesting that it hasn't really been so widely adopted. There's still the majority of work is done in a conventional way, but where we see invariably is when a client does just make the decision to adopt a design build or other integrated project delivery method, then all of a sudden they're converted and they don't go back. They're like, this was so much better. And it's like, okay, I'm on, this is the way we're doing it from here on, and they just need that life experience first. Because it's new. And I understand how it can be kind of scary to try something new like that, because there's a lot of dollars at stake here. But I think your point is spot on, that you don't lose competitive advantage, that it's still a competitively delivered project, because the cost of the project is in the trades, and you're still competitively pricing the trades. But at the same time, you just don't have to deal with all the headaches and the difficulties that go with it. So it tends to be interesting. I don't really know the answer to this. Be interesting to look into it, but I suspect that perhaps there's more contention, contractual contention on projects going into arbitration or litigation or something involved with conventional project delivery on average than there are with design build or IPD project delivery.
Absolutely. I mean, again, like you said, I don't know the numbers on that, but absolutely, absolutely. I think when somebody in trying to present that delivery method to a client, you mentioned this earlier, which is trust, right? Like, how do you develop that trust? Because I think in order for a client to be able to jump in that delivery method, they've got to trust that, both maybe the design team and the construction company have done this successfully before, may have some case studies and something like that, in order to be able to kind of feel comfortable to be able to jump into this. But it's a matter of establishing that trust early on to go into that delivery method, because I would imagine a client is, in a way feeling, this isn't the conventional way of doing it that I've always done it. And so jumping into a new delivery method, of course, there's some anxieties around that. And so developing that trust, and like I said, probably having a significant amount of case studies in order to be able to present that to the client is probably important.
Yeah, and there really are. I love what you said, because I think there's a ton of examples. I mean, this is not a new thing, right? Design build and IPD is not new. It's been proven successfully across many markets, many industries, and it's widely adopted. But there's obviously still a lot of pockets where it hasn't quite been embraced yet, and inevitably will. Usually, it's done. It's kind of bought into when a project is under special duress, usually schedule. right? Because there's no better way to deliver a faster project. And I think that just will continue to become more compelling as cost escalations continue to occur. The cost of money and time to market considerations become increasingly more important. Then you end up there's no better way to deliver projects. You save way more money delivering a project faster than you do by dragging it out in a conventional, competitive design bid build type of scenario.
So getting back, just what would you have, or what advice would you have for an architecture firm, and what are some things that you guys are looking out for 2024 in the Austin market?
Yeah, so good question. I think there's the kind of what's coming up in the immediate future as sort of the near-term market, real estate market factors. Access to capital is a kind of a challenge right now because interest rates are high. So people who can get to private equity are better positioned in the near term. One of the real estate considerations that I think is important to be paying attention to is there's going to be a lot of office space products coming available. There you have with people working from home more, working remotely, there's reduced demand for office space. So there's this flight to value. It's going to consolidate leases into some properties, and other properties are going to not be performing very well. That creates opportunity in this industry because if you think, just take, hypothetical example, you have a suburban office park that has been typically kind of filled with a bunch of office lease tenants. Those are going to become really interesting or they're available anyway for life science to move into and put some labs in those buildings. And it could be a very affordable option in a good location, convert sort of repurpose the building. Some of that's it's been happening for a while, but I think we'll continue to see more of that. So for us, we're really leaning in on that and driving conversations in the industry. So we're looking for clients who are positioned with access to capital. We're looking for clients that their facility needs are looking for new real estate, and we're trying to connect those with property owners who need to mix up their property to kind of revitalize it and reposition it. I think from an architecture firm or design firm's perspective, that's kind of where probably the near-term opportunities lie. Beyond that, go back to the technology discussion we had earlier. Got to be embracing the technology. Somebody the other day I was listening to an interview, and it was kind of AI scientist guy, and the discussion was on how AI is going to take jobs, and we've certainly seen that discussion in the architecture profession. There's plenty of people out there talking about the fear of AI taking away jobs from people practicing architecture. But I think that the way the guy put it was spot on, is that every time there's been a technological evolution that is transformative in an industry, it does tend to have people lose jobs, but it also leads to the creation of more jobs, different jobs, but it drives the creation of more jobs. And then that'll be kind of similar. Don't know exactly what it'll look like for us, but the other comment he made was you don't need to be thinking about it so much as machines taking jobs away from people, because it's not going to be about machines taking jobs away from people. What's going to happen, and what you need to pay attention to, is that people with machines are going to take jobs away from people without machines. So you embrace the technology, figure out how it's going to work best for you, and it will. But you got to get on it, and you got to be part of it. You bury your head in sand, or you dismiss this, and you're going to find yourself stuck in a part of the market that you're not going to be very successful in. So definitely lean in on that. I think the other things with the kind of life science industry that are interesting are going to be how the overlay of future work kind of ties to life science industry, because it's still a factor, still people working, and what workplace needs to be like for them. One of the things we're really focused on is the lab space kind of workspaces that people have to go to work in every day. Those have kind of typically been looked at as just purely functional spaces. You just need to get, you need a bench, and you need a hood, and you need the, CDA, you need all just whatever kind of stuff. And you're just kind of looking at it like we just have the stuff in there. What we're doing is kind of taking the same mindset that we've been applying for years to designing office workplace environments that are great for people to thrive, and apply similar thinking into lab space environments and those kinds of areas, because there's still people in there that still need to thrive. And it's not like we're going to go turn it into a creative office space, but we can apply some really good lessons learned and how to make great workplace. So it can be things like incorporating sort of aspects of biophilic design, or access to daylight, or fresh air, or better ergonomic equipment choices. There's a variety of different things that we can do there, and it makes the difference between a well-functioning space to a really high-performing, great work environment for people. So I think that's one that's important. And then sustainability is overlaid on all of this stuff, right? People in the life science industry, or businesses in life science, are just like every other business, and the responsibilities we have to orient our business to be more operate more sustainably, to reduce our carbon impact. Those are factors for that industry as well. It's other things have kind of become a higher priority forever there, but I think that's going to be increasingly part of the dialogue, and how we lace that into our design solutions and set those businesses up for operation in a more sustainable practice is going to be a key thing going forward.
Well, James, thank you for joining us today on Pravo Convos. As always, you're a wealth of thoughtful information, and I know our listeners will benefit from you joining us here today. So thank you.
Thank you. Always enjoy talking with you. Appreciate it. You guys have a great day.